Well, hello everybody. This is Scott Masha from Small Space for Young Entrepreneurs, and I'm sitting with my closest friend, Chelsea Suddes from Connecticut, an owner, decorator, entrepreneur. The list goes on. I want to bring her in because I've been following her for her since 2017 on building her business, and it's been super exciting. Chelsea, thank you for stopping in and coming and talking with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So I wanted to break in and talk to you about when did you start your business? When did you decide to start your business? Small topics like that, because today's my special day. I want to introduce to the ladies, pardon my French, how badass of a business owner you've become over the last few years. So, how about we dig into the dirt and we tell a little bit, everybody a little bit about yourself, and we'll start off when did you decide that you want to be your own boss?
When did decide I wanted to be my own boss? I would say I probably decided that at a really young age. If you ask my parents, they probably would tell you that I was kind of doing my own thing, dancing to my own drum, my own beat of my own drum. Um, but it wasn't really until I started off in the career realm that I realized that that was actually something that I could do. But the idea of being my own boss actually started when I was like 12 or 13, when I started my first mini landscaping business, which didn't go that well. So they say you fail a couple times before you nail it. So here I am.
That's great. So, um, let's go a little bit further from your childhood. Obviously, you had regular jobs, right? And in those regular jobs, did they train you on how you were going to become what you are now?
That's a great question. So I started out in the restaurant industry at the age of 14, and I started working right into the kitchen. I was a cook from the beginning, and then I kind of moved my way up through working with other pizza restaurants. And I was managing my first restaurant when I was in high school. So I had like keys to this restaurant place. I was the manager of the front of the house staff. Um, and I would say, in my younger years is probably when I learned the most about work ethic and managing people and what that actually meant. And I worked for a lot of small businesses. All these restaurants were small businesses. And I got to really see the ins and outs of what it meant to put your energy into something and what you put your energy and focus and intention in, how it grows from that. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say the first person that gave me the opportunity in high school to be managing a restaurant, I think he was a huge person in my life. I'm still friends with him today. He really showed me what it meant to own something. And he showed me that, like, you can take a risk and things can be scary, but if you push yourself, you can really create whatever you want. So I would say that's where I learned, like, at a young age. And then from there, it kind of just took off. I stayed in the restaurant industry all throughout college. I went to college full time, I was working full time, and I ended up being a manager at Ruby Tuesdays after years of working there. And then I also went into, I finished up college and then I went right into project management for a healthcare industry, which I learned a ton about how you run a corporate industry, which is totally different than a small business. So I think every aspect of what I've learned and what I've gained from every job that I've had has really shaped me into the person I am today. And, it really shaped me into the business owner I am today. And I always tell everybody, everyone's path is totally different because we're all meant to learn something different. Some people have skill sets already and they don't need to sharpen those, or they need to have a certain experience to help them build themselves on their own path. And my path led me to exactly where I am today. And every piece that I got along the way has completely shaped me. And there's been tons of mentors, managers, business owners that have taught me some incredible things. So, like, my biggest piece of advice is listen to everything everyone has to share with you along your path of becoming an entrepreneur, because there's so many good nuggets of information that people are so willing to provide to you, and they'll just offer it up to you, and they, from their experience, they probably know more than you could ever understand. So always absorb everything everybody has to say, really hear it. Doesn't always apply, but like make sure you're listening really well.
Mm. What would you? So let's go about a year ahead of you opening up
Mhm.
your enterprise, so to speak. And let's talk about how you were starting to plan it. I mean, was it really rough for you to start planning? Let's start off with, were you a bootstrap company, or did somebody help you finance it?
Bootstrap all the way. I started out with my own money of a $2,000 investment, and I was also working full time at, you know, a year before it opened, or about 6 months before, a year to 6 months before, I had left the corporate industry. I had done a wedding planning and design internship back in college. So I kind of had this idea of like, wow, is this something I could actually do for myself in the future? And I had always said, like, I won't be able to do that until I have my own wedding. So fast forward, I worked in corporate. I left corporate because it just wasn't what I was looking for. I wasn't in alignment for what I was trying to pursue with my life. And I was looking for other jobs. I went back into the restaurant industry. I ended up getting married and planning my own wedding. And I was like, oh, okay, now I'm ready to do this. So it wasn't until on my honeymoon that my husband was like, I was starting to think about putting together a business plan. I was like, I need to start a business. I've wanted to do this my entire life. I feel ready to do this. So I went to go put together this business plan. And I was like, I think I'm going to open a wedding planning company. And my husband's like, yeah, actually, you've been talking about it for like the last 10 years of your life. So go for it. So
Mhm.
it really was like starting with a business plan and $2,000. And I was like, let's do this. And here I am.
So obviously your husband was very supportive about that. Now, I know that you got something kind of cool that we discussed over the week, and he's got special techniques of his own that really make you happy. So, do we mind sharing that?
Yeah, my husband's absolutely incredible human being. I am inspired by him every single day. He is a musician, it's his career, and it's really amazing to watch somebody have so much passion and such a talent and constantly be working at that every single day to bring that to fruition. So he's been playing guitar since I think he was 13 years old,
Hmm.
and he's a musician today. And being a musician is being an entrepreneur. I mean, it's the same exact thing. And he had already built one of his own businesses outside of the music career that was like a super help to our family at the time because I was building my business. His was very successful very quickly, and it supported us while mine grew. And I learned a ton from my husband and just how much he's constantly pursued, what he wants in his life. And he's always been like, hey, if I want it, I can create it. So he's my inspiration every day.
Great. That's very nice to know, is that we get to have partners in our lives where they get to push us to be where we want to be.
Mhm.
Um, that was something very hard for me. If it wasn't for Elizabeth, I would have probably said no a million times, because it's a hot topic. So, as I said to everybody in the beginning, my biggest thing about bringing in this video and the podcast today was to sit with Chelsea and talk about not only the good stuff, but the hard stuff about being a female in an industry where you're making a brand for yourself. So, Chelsea, can you explain to maybe some of our listeners what you felt was maybe a few hardest spots for you as a female in this industry?
Yeah, I would say, just stepping into the entrepreneurial world, I don't think it's as well, it hasn't been as expressed to women as something that they can pursue because a lot of times, in my years in corporate, it was always like guys have a little bit more pull, they can create what they want, men are better with money because they can price themselves accurately. There's all these like very heavy masculine ideas, but they don't really talk a lot about women who are also able to access a form of masculinity in career. And I think that there's like a part of that I pull on. Of just having that tough passion and determination and willing to kind of do whatever it takes to get it done and constantly always being willing and looking to fix things, which any woman can access. And I don't think they talk a lot about that. Or, I think there's a lot of the idea that like, yeah, maybe you just shouldn't do it. Do something easier, or like that's too much work, or you're not going to have the time, or something of that nature. So I came up a lot against that stuff. And it was more of like a belief system. It wasn't actual specific roadblocks. It was more of like those personal limiting beliefs that I think exist out there around women. But none of them are true because I'm here, and you can really do whatever you want to do, whatever you want to create for yourself. You just have to believe it, desire it, and constantly go after it every single day, and always remind yourself that you're as good as you are, because there's a lot of doubt that can really hold you up as well. But I think that that's really the biggest thing that women come up against, is like actual limiting beliefs of what they can or can't do.
I've I feel that from being an outsider that actually gets to look in to majority of the women who own bigger businesses, even women that own bigger businesses besides my own, and that is the worst enemy in the world is yourself.
Mhm.
A lot of people forget that even even for males these days, when you're starting off a business, we forget to cheer ourselves on. When you're going through the business and you're like, oh my God, we're working on our 13th year in business in my location,
Congrats.
and it's a big deal. But the hardest part is if it wasn't for my little side cheerleader, yay, cheering me on and being like, hey, you can do this, you can make this happen. We've been through a lot of rough times, and it's have you found since 2017 that it's gotten a little easier for you? And I'll break into my better question after that, but let's start with that one.
Yes and no, right? Yes, because I've definitely been able to get some things that are more of just like, I know how to do this, I'm comfortable with this, I'm not as much learning everything brand new. I think, you know, COVID last year drastically impacted, or not last year, in 2020, drastically impacted our industry horribly. So
Hmm.
that was the reminder to me that as an entrepreneur and a small business owner, you never know everything. You never have gone through everything, and you have to always be prepared to be learning, which is a beautiful thing. You always want to be learning and evolving. Um, but every day there's something new that I'm learning. As much as things have gotten easier, for sure, like I definitely have my financials really locked in. I have my quarterly updates and like tracking of things. I know how I track my team. But then there's other things, like I'm constantly finding teams and I'm expanding and growing. And, there's lots of challenges to that too. So it's, it's an ever evolving, but you get more comfortable, I think, in the idea of like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. And like that becomes the thing that feels a lot easier, of like, this is my job. This is what pays for my home. This brings the food on my table. And I'm proud of that, as like it's just my job, like I work for somebody else. So that was really what's gotten easier, of just believing in myself of what I can and can't do.
What do you feel about um, your time that you put into your business versus the time you put into your social life?
So that's a big learning that I'm bringing into this year. So prior to, I'm going into my 6th year in business, and the first 5 years, I don't think I've ever hustled so hard at everything and at anything before in my entire life. I mean, I gave up a lot, I devoted a lot, and you know, the last few years have been basically, I've just been doing my business, and I didn't really have a good balance of like social life and business. It was mainly just business. I also work on the weekends, so we don't really have the ability to like, all summer long, I'm pretty much booked every weekend at an event, when that's more of the time when like my friends can hang out. But this year going into it, I'm shifting my whole perspective around my business again, which is something you do in the evolution. And I'm finding that I need to set way more boundaries, that I need to have a social life and have things outside of my business, because when you lose that, you lose yourself in your business and your business doesn't get better. And that was the misconception that I had for a really long time. Like in the beginning, yes, you devote and you have to like put a lot into your company because if you did it the way that I did, like bootstrapping it and like, this is how I'm going to make money. I didn't have an investment. So I had to devote everything to get it back. But at some point you have to find the balance between social life, just regular enjoyment, travel, whatever kind of makes it work for you, and then your business, because without having the other parts of your life, your business can't really thrive. Working on that. That's a new thing for this year. I'll be seeing a lot more of my friends.
That's great. That's great. Did you start your business as a white wall company? In other words, were you business planned, or did you have yourself a big old white wall with marker all over it saying, or or posting pictures about how you wanted it to be by the time you got done with it? A lot of people don't really take that into consideration about how much we actually plan before we start doing our business. So can you
Oh,
help out with that?
yeah, of course. I know a lot about myself and the way that I learn and the way that I visualize things, which has been really helpful in my career. And I'm very comfortable with it. I am a hands-on person, which kind of explains why I was in the restaurant industry for 15 years. I love hands-on things. So to me, I love to see the outline, see how things are going to work. So I am a big post-it note person. And what I first did was I purchased these huge post-it notes and I broke out my business on post-it notes. And it was like the whole room was just covered of like, what do I want my branding to be like? What do I represent? What's important to me? Where am I today? Where do I look like I want to go in 5 years? What is 10 years? Do I want to build a team? What do I want to focus on? I mean, I was talking about, this was the first week of doing this business. And I was talking about, side business ventures that would have some form of a percentage so that I could make additional money, and like all these different ideas that I had. And I built them all out in these post-it notes that I still have. And I will keep those post-it notes forever. And I don't know if you can see over here, but I
I
have
I
post-it
was
notes.
about to say your new wall sitting right there, huh?
Yeah. So I am definitely like, I love to lay everything out just to
Mm.
have an overview of exactly what I'm looking to create so I can move with complete intention. Every movement in my business needs to be thought through, needs to have intention. It doesn't always work out, but I want to make sure that I knew why I was going about it. So that's my structure. And from there, I went down and built like a business plan, which kind of broke it out a little bit more about when I was going to be doing things, how I was going to be investing, when I kind of thought I'd be able to move out of the job that I was in, and all of those things. So I had a pretty good plan. But I'm a wedding planner and designer, so we do a lot of planning every day for all the clients. And one of my most important things that I got from one of my life coaches that I used to work with, she always would say, make a plan, but be flexible. And I live by that through and through. Like I said, I'm a wedding planner and things change on the day of a wedding without even, rain. I live in New England. It could rain and not even say there's rain on the weather plan. So you always want to make a plan so you have intention and you know the direction that you're going in, but be super open and flexible because things can shift and change and they can end up going in a better direction than you could have even planned or thought of, because what comes out of your mind is really based off of your personal experiences or information you picked up on Instagram or reading articles. But you never know, if you leave a little bit more space, you might create something that's totally outside of anything that you've ever experienced before. And that's where that flexibility really comes in.
Great. Let's talk about your marketing. So as I've said to you before, I'm a faithful follower, and I love the way you market. I love how much spirit you have in it when you're doing it. So all those that have not seen her marketing skills, please jump on Instagram and TikTok and watch how spirited she is. She's very spirited, and I love that drawer back that you have. So I noticed a lot of your. Do you outsource a lot of your marketing, or do you really keep it in house? You just run with a really stable photographer.
I do all of my marketing in-house and I'm the one that actually oversees it. I don't subcontract any of it.
Mm.
The reason being is that I love it. It's actually something that I really enjoy about my business. I wouldn't want somebody else to overdo it because it's actually, or I wouldn't want somebody else to take it over because it's a part that I enjoy. And when you own, if anybody listening, when you own a business, when you start subcontracting or hiring for positions, hire it for the positions that you don't love doing, not the ones that you love to do, right? So I do all my own marketing. It was how I started my business. You know, people ask me all the time, how did you get your first client? How did you do this? And marketing was a huge piece to that. I spent a lot of time coming up with a marketing strategy, and mainly at the time, because I was starting my company with, like I said, $2,000. I decided to go the route of using Instagram, which was really popular at the time, still is popular. TikTok is now coming through as well. But I ended up using Instagram because it was free. And the only thing that I needed to invest was my time, which is something at that point that I had a lot of, because I was like, I'm just here to grow this business and I'm going to invest in all the marketing. So I have a full marketing strategy. I use Pinterest, TikTok, Instagram. I've done a lot of presentations about marketing for small business entrepreneurs as well, to kind of highlight that you don't want to be in every single marketing tunnel. You want to pick the ones that, one, you like, two, that you're good at, and three, where you're going to get the most traction from your demographic. And if one of those options, there's LinkedIn, there's, like I said, Pinterest, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, there's so many different platforms. You want to pick the ones that fit best into those three buckets so that you can be the most successful for your company. And there's no reason to spread yourself thin and be in every single marketing tunnel, because it doesn't always make sense. And there's like email marketing and tons of great things out there.
So that's a conversation I had with Eric Pierce about 2 weeks ago,
Oh, awesome.
and Eric was he specializes in planting himself on every platform,
Oh,
and
wow.
his over 130 something platforms. And
Ooh.
when you he does that because he's in an area where if you just type hashtag, I mean, boat valet, he's the guy you're gonna see. And I said that's it's a great way that he looks at it, because he's taking as much, it's basically like hashtagging, and all of a sudden everybody sees it. And the reason why for that is because he wants to be the only one to be seen. And I
Yeah.
said, I said, this is as a small business owner, I could never do that because that's too much work for me.
Yeah.
And I inquire to inspire people that want to be like that, because now that becomes an industry. Now,
Hmm.
as you said before, um, I agree with you about doing the ones that you like doing.
Yeah.
But I remember something somebody else said to me, a mentor said to me one time, and that is, it rolls into the discussion we just had, which was, if you're going to try to peel yourself apart from your business, so you have that personal time, you got to do a lot more finger pointing now. And that is a problem that us as entrepreneurs have a problem with, because we love our baby, we carry our baby, we're spoon feeding our baby. But the truth is we need to let our baby go every once in a while in the direction that we don't want to be in. And that for me is like, I don't want to be detailing the rest of my life. So what do you got to do? You got to hand it off to somebody else who's going to be, as good of a detailer as you are at the moment. And marketing's the same way too. So I was reading a book not too long ago where we were talking about marketing, and the biggest part about marketing was, first of all, the analytics. Having people pay attention to their analytics is the hardest thing in the world, because you literally have to get into every platform that you're in to see if those analytics are working for you.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't want to do that. They just want to hang on Facebook and be like, hey, this is the deal. Facebook's doing me a great job right now. But you lose so many others in other marketing places. So, like your email marketing, how many times have you emailed your client from before? Because that client might have a daughter that could want an event held. And it's a constant feed in that case. And I think that the marketing strategy today has gotten a lot stronger because of social media. But as I asked Eric a couple weeks ago, what do you feel about what we call guerrilla marketing. Do you still do a lot of that?
What's guerrilla marketing?
Do you know what? Do you do a lot of guerrilla marketing?
I don't know what guerrilla
Or
marketing is.
okay, so see, I'm a teacher. So guerrilla
Please.
market, guerrilla marketing is basically like shake hands, talk a lot, still hand out flyers and pamphlets, maybe going out to places, events and stuff like that where you're talking about your business. It's really separate from online presence. So you're not doing any social media, you're not doing any web pages, you're not doing like you don't even have to do newspapers. It's literally you doing everything.
Oh,
So do you?
interesting.
Mhm.
That's interesting. I mean, when I started my business, I was everywhere. I mean, I went to every venue and I went knocking on their door. Can I have a tour of your space? I'd love to meet you. I'm a wedding planner. I'll have future clients that might want to see this space. I went to, they would do these like wedding events, kind of like where people would go through and walk around and meet different vendors. I attended them. I was a person at them. So I did a lot of that. And then COVID hit, as you know, and it really shifted up a lot of things for being in person. So
Mhm.
um, you couldn't really do that in 2020. I was actually booked to be doing a couple of those in-person exchanges, but they all kind of collapsed. And then 2021, due to the fact that 2020 was shut down for events, my 2021 was an insanely busy year that I barely was on Instagram because I just didn't have the time because I was making up for a full year loss of business. So do I still do it? Yes, but I do it. I don't do full blown guerrilla marketing. That is, I have different avenues, but I 100% believe that in person is a bigger impact than Instagram will ever be. So I still set up, these things called styled shoots and stuff like that, so I can meet venues and then I get to design things and kind of like creating a fake wedding and taking photos of it and stuff to get content, which kind of answers your question before of I use and work with all different kind of photographers for weddings, events. It's really based off what the client needs. And then I just create an Instagram feed that looks good to that. So um, basically, I still do in-person marketing to some extent if I can.
Great.
Long,
That
long answer, but
no, it's a great answer. I like that one. A lot of people. It's a good thing that you asked me what it was because it's an old term. It's a very old term. Rennie Doyle, one of my teachers, actually broke into it. But when he wrote his book, he was like that was one of the biggest things about remembering how we can do separate advertising now. It's hard to trace. It's harder to trace guerrilla marketing because you don't know where they're coming from. I mean, it's not like you personally ask, "Hey, did you see me at this event 5 years ago?" And they may come to you from that. But it's a very as a joke. One time, I told people, I said, I take my business cards and I throw a business card in the slot at the gas station that you would normally put your credit card to cash in and cash out. And people laughed at me. They said, "You do what?" I said, "Yeah, I stick my business card there because you have to take my business card out to be able to slide your credit card in." And it brought me so much business because people were like, "I found your credit card at the gas station." And I was like, "Hey, that's great. I love that. It's that's a guerrilla type marketing right there. Is where you can find the small things that reach a lot of people. Other things that I used to do is get the heck out of my car, go to the car behind me, and hand them my business card." And been like, yeah, I'm a detailer. I can clean your car. And that was the kind of stuff because people were like, oh my God, I could never forget you. Why? Because you jumped out of your car and ran over to mine and handed me a business card. So those, like you said before, pre 2021 or 2020, and that was a big thing for us is to be able to have that social presence where we could draw. And that's for us as well as you. I need that social presence because I'm a detailer. People need to be around cars that I've worked on. People need to know what kind of things I'm doing. So this has changed the market for us quite a bit. Now, what are some things that you find harder for women in the industry right now that we can change, that small business owners can change a lot more to make it easier?
for women specifically, I mean, I think and maybe this is the wrong way to think about it, but I think that women need to really empower themselves and step into it because um, there's probably a lot of things that can hold women back. Again, I'm in the wedding planning industry, which is actually majority ran by women and small businesses. It's actually a more women owned industry, which is kind of cool. Not to say there's not a lot of men, but I'm a wedding planner and designer, which it's not that there aren't men planners and designers. There's some phenomenal ones, especially in New York, like David Beheim. I mean, amazing people. But my recommendation and thought would be really just supporting other women, supporting them and telling them that they have what it takes and that their self doubt doesn't dictate the outcome of their business. And they're so much more powerful than they probably have given themselves credit for. I think that could really be something that's used across the board for guys and girls. It doesn't really matter, whatever you identify with as far as your gender. I mean, I think anybody can really use like if they're going to be on the path of pursuing something that they're passionate with, that is in alignment with who they are and what they want to create, and has really like they've done the work to get themselves there. I think if we can step out and support one another more and say like, you've got this, it's okay. Hard days as an entrepreneur are super hard. You're the only one there. There's no one else. Like the whole first, few years of my business, I was the only person on these events. And if something went wrong, I couldn't turn to the person next to me and be like, I don't know what to do. Can you come up with an answer? Should I keep doing this or should I just let my business crash and fall? Like no one was there to do that for me. So I had to constantly pick myself up and encourage myself. And, of course I had support from my husband. I think my family thought I was pretty crazy. So though they were there for me, I think they were kind of like, yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to go for each else. But, just if you see another entrepreneur that's in the beginning, help them and support them, not help them and do the work for them. Just give them support and let them know that when days are hard, they're hard. And that's true. And that's real. And things aren't always going to be super easy. But if you can you're constantly stay in alignment with why you're doing it, what you're passionate about, and what you're excited to create for your life. And you can find people that are going to support you and say, you've got this, don't worry about it. I think that's like the biggest thing that a female or anyone trying to enter into the entrepreneurial world could really use.
So let's talk the next couple of years of your business. Where do you see yourself going, and how far do you plan on going?
Well, I don't want to give away all of my goodies because, I have it all like spreadsheeted out and,
I was about to say posty noted. Get real.
yeah, lots of. I have a lot of plans. I have a lot of things that I want to do. I will continue to grow and evolve my business and what we do from a design perspective for our clients, really, really diving into the design world, creating these experiential events that are unforgettable, and then growing my team so that I have much more support. And, we are getting inquiries every day and I'm completely booked for 2022. So being able to expand my team so that we can take on more events, support more couples, and then, grow and see what kind of comes out of that. And for me, a huge thing is, training people and giving them the opportunity to be wedding planners and, offering them a space to grow and create their life within my business is like one of the other elements of what I do that I'm really passionate about is like allowing people the space to work with me and learn a lot from me and grow within our business to become really good at something that's incredibly rewarding. And then also have a life outside of that too, because I'm trying to have that as well. So finding that balance.
So I'm gonna find you on a boat in the river one of these days, chilling out with the husband, sipping martinis. Yeah, there you go.
It'll be a friend's boat because I'll never own a boat, but I'd love to have a friend that owns a boat. Learn a lot of work. I don't know if I have that kind of time.
Anytime you want to come up here and have lobster with me, you can do that. How about that? So I've got a few more questions. We won't make it too much longer because I know that you have quite a bit of things that you're doing for the rest of the day. I've got 411 about that now. What is your favorite book? Have you been reading?
Ooh, yeah. I am right now. Reading Bren Brown, and I forget the title completely, but it's her book about imperfection, being a perfectionist. Forget the actual title, but I can send it to you. That is a really empowering book. And one of my life coaches offered or recommended I read it because I can lean towards being a bit of a perfectionist, and it can be actually very detrimental to business owners to be a perfectionist. So I'm reading that book right now, which has been really empowering and super exciting because it is taking everything that I thought I knew and really shaking it up in a way so I can see something different. I'm a big self-help book reader. I'm constantly looking at myself because I constantly want to grow and evolve and learn how I can do things better that will, ultimately make my life better. So that's the book I'm reading right now, and I love it.
Yeah, I might need to read that because I have a serious problem with micromanaging. If
Oh,
if you
yes,
know what that's like, you know where that can take you. So,
yes, yes, that's tough. That
so
one's
how many
tough.
people do you have in your crew?
Um, right now I have, so it's kind of, we're like, we do seasonal work. So on during wedding season, we have about a total of 10 of us because I'll have, people that are going on just for the days. And then over the winter season, I have an indefinite one girl that works with me part time. And then I'm actually currently looking for a virtual assistant because I did have two. One moved on to grow her own business. So I'm looking to fill her place and get another. So two
Awesome.
basically.
Can't ask for much more than that. So, ten people in the total of 6 years. I don't think that's bad.
No, not bad.
No, that's you've got me jealous. I've got no people, so we'll
Yeah.
trade.
Having
Yeah,
people, oh my gosh,
big difference.
woo, yeah, doing it by yourself is crazy. I used to run these like 300-person weddings that
Hmm.
were, they're like I gave 10 hours. Well, I end up doing more than that, but 300-person weddings where I'm one person. I mean, it's crazy. You can't do it.
Hmm.
You can, there's I mean, I'm sure you know all about this. When you go to add someone to your team, there is a lot of things that you have to go over as far as financials and all that good stuff. But then there's also this point where you become a business owner again, entrepreneur, and you're like, either I take the risk and I get the help or I don't. You have to figure it out. I mean, when I in 2020, I was losing all of my business for the year, right? I was working harder than I've ever worked at replanning. I replanned one wedding 4 different times, which was so much work. And at that point, it was so new and everybody was so devastated by what was going on in the world that I was making no money. I was losing money. Um, and because of the impact of COVID and the amount of work that came on my plate, I decided to hire people while I was losing money, which is not something most people would say to do, right? And I was like, I got to choose my mental health. I believe that we are going to exist in 2021. I'm like, I believe it. We have clients. They're just 2020 clients. And I was like, I will book more clients for 2021. But if I book in 2 years into one, I'm like, I'm going to need people. So I took this ginormous risk and added 2 people to my team while I was losing money. And it was the best decision I've ever made, and I won't go back.
Yeah, I usually I call that stocks and bonds
Yeah.
because a lot of people look at me and they saw me do it during the wintertime. I've done the same thing. I've looked at people and I've hired people during the wintertime, even when I know that I could barely afford it and it's never going to work out for me. And people are like, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "Well, because of my sanity. Because if I don't do this, then I'm gonna find a new me doing this job." So, uh,
Definitely.
I know you live in Connecticut. Let's. I usually ask everybody more towards the end of our show. I'm a foodie. I like food. So, what is your favorite hole in the wall place to go eat?
Okay. Well, hole in the wall place. So there's this place called Faux Boston. I think it's in West Hartford, I believe, maybe not. Faux Boston is one of our top favorite winter places. They have great pho. And then there's also Monte Alban, which is in Hartford, and it is a Mexican restaurant. Because I am like, if I could eat Mexican every day, I probably would.
Well, you might as well stand in line with my wife. She always asks me if from Mexican. So Chelsea, it's been great sitting down and talking with you, and I hope that maybe one of these days we can have you back on our episodes. You brought so much spirit to this and so much information for everybody. I hope to see your business prosper more than I've saw it already.
Yeah.
And like always, everybody, this is Chelsea, and I'm Scott, and I want to thank you very much for watching and listening to this, and I hope you have yourselves a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate it. This is great.